a lot of people, right, worry about the future, if Trump does win. I think the problem though is it's not just Trump alone is the problem. Is what we're seeing is some people are okay with this kind of rhetoric. I think that's really the really scary part. And there's no other way to put it. So it's like I said, this is not just Trump. It's just Trump's channeling a group of people that are into this kind of rhetoric. Um, and I think, my opinion why it's so important to just talk about this stuff is that not everyone is, this way. This been thankful to have y'all in the community that understand the importance of these kind of things. Uh, just you do have to stand up and push back. So, we're getting so close to the election here, and it seems to getting a lot uglier, unfortunately. And then it's on top of that you have all the things spread on social media, which I see on X and things. It's I've noticed it with the because generally I follow the Tesla, Elon Musk, shenanigans, that stuff, and I've noticed all of their Tesla influencers now all of a sudden are Trumpers all of a sudden, right? And whether or not those people believing that stuff, who knows? They're just sort of chasing them, chasing their dear leader, I think, and it's kind of trending that way. The issue is with any of these kind of things is you always have a choice on how you carry yourself, and deep down you have to ask yourself the question: are you on the right path or not? Robert says, if there's any justice at all, this will seal his loss, but who knows? Yeah, it's really hard to say. It's like I said, it was the ugliest thing that I have seen. When I was a kid, the Republicans were just, hey, we're gonna, and they would say some pretty incendiary things. I won't lie. That going back to say Reagan talking about welfare queen, that kind of stuff. And I'm sure if you guys live to this stuff, you'll remember those things. But primarily, they were all about tax cuts and stuff of that nature, right? But now we're just getting extremely ugly. John says rhetoric is highly speculative. Everyone there was having a great time, and the only thing that happened is Trump's term was low inflation and peace. Yeah. So I don't know what you're trying to say with this thing here, though. I literally heard the things for myself. Sometimes I don't know if you're defending Trump here. I can't tell, but sometimes the people, and this is what Musk will do. I saw it with my own eyes. With Musk would say, "Oh, it's just the mainstream media trying to paint Trump in a bad light, take him out of context." And so whenever I see whatever thing circulating on social media, I find the original source. I watch the whole thing, and I'm like, "Yep, that's pretty bad." And this is what the rally was. It really was that bad. Um, and a lot of people have been asking me to say stuff about this, and this is sort of why we have to talk about these things. It's a real problem. It's a serious problem, and the main issue is we don't want this stuff to be normalized, right? To think these are normal things to say. The issue right now is the election is actually close, so how does Harris handle this kind of stuff? How do voters show up at the polls? People are already voting now, so we're actually going to go through where we are in the election. Nicola Pasta said this is a textbook gaslighting. Sure. Subtocrab says, did you already play what was said? No, I haven't played it. I'm not intending to play it. I don't think it's necessary. If you want to find the stuff, it's all over social media. You'll easily find it, so don't worry. There's no shortage of clips out there. I'm just here to tell you it really was that ugly, and like I stated before, the defense that the Trump people always say is like, oh, it's just taken out of context. Mainstream media is hating, but I mean, when you watch this stuff, you can't defend it. And so this, but this goes back to, will people in the Republican Party, will they have any kind of backbone? Um, it yeah, Jared saying it was the most blatantly racist comedy I have seen. It was gross. Yeah, so I've seen a lot of stuff, right? But this is it's ugly. It's ugly. It's terrible. There's no other way to put it. And we do need to we need that's why I'm doing a live stream to talk to you guys about this stuff, and just wanted to hear what other people say. Lugwood says very dark time in for the USA. Unfortunately, it is. This is the other issue, right? So headline: Republicans distance themselves from the Puerto Rico insult at Trump's rally. Um, there's Republicans out there that know this stuff is wrong, right? So one of the ways, the phrase that you keep hearing, and it's been like this for the last, I don't know, 8 years or whatever, I guess, since Trump has been in politics, to where there's Republicans out there that they sort of, the phrase is they hold their nose and still vote for him, right? So I mean, I have friends who are on the more Republican side, and they all know Trump's an idiot, but they'll just say, oh, but I like his policies. And I've heard friends that tolerate racism. I have a friend from South Carolina, and just the way that he'll say it, the phrase. We were talking about, this was after the if you guys remember, the basically white supremacist people at the University of Virginia, they had the torches and all that stuff, and the Trump wouldn't call it out. I mean, it was such an easy thing for any normal sane person. You're just like, hey, I don't condone racism whatsoever, and Trump basically just doesn't say anything. And my friend from South Carolina would just be like, oh well, that just wasn't handled well by Trump. That's like the strongest that they go against it. So like, they know it's wrong, but I don't know. It's like I said, you have to decide for yourself, like where you stand for this kind of stuff. It's ugly. And that's the thing that's the problematic, is will this be normalized, this kind of language, right? Robert's saying, how racist do you have to be when even the Trump crowd doesn't laugh? Yeah, it really is that ugly, guys. Let me I want to keep going through this stuff. But like I said, I think the main concern is it's not just Trump. It represents a segment of society. And here's the thing that we have to think about too, from a positive point of view, is how can we push forward from this? Because essentially what's going on is you have a group of people who are down and out, for various reasons, economically, they just feel like they're being left behind. And essentially what it is a good leader, right? Or a leader, I'll say a leader, gives people hope, right? And it's up to the leader to push them, or inspire them, however you want to say, in one direction or the other, right? So I mentioned this before, and I mentioned again on the channel, where like say you watch, for example, an Obama rally, and everyone starts booing, boo Donald Trump, that kind of stuff, and Obama always says the same thing: don't boo, vote. And that right there is signs of positive leadership, right? And the opposite would be someone like the Trump people would and Trump would encourage people to boo and to say, oh, it's all this dark people's fault, and this kind of stuff. It's all all those people are going to come hurt you, that kind of thing, and people start getting riled up, right? So you have to think about what you see, and like how you egg on people, if you guys know what I'm saying. And that's sort of why I'm bringing this stuff up, to where I've seen a lot of this kind of stuff, unfortunately, from Trump for a while, and we all know it's not like hidden. It's just I haven't seen it in this way, this aggressive. It's gotten really ugly. I think a lot of it was the Stephen Miller stuff, and you guys probably remember the Stephen Miller if you've been following this stuff for a while. And let's see what else people have to say here. Mung saying here he's not running for president. He's running away from prison. Yeah, his sentencing is, I think that was been delayed. So if you don't know, Trump was found guilty as a felon. It's like so many charges. I don't remember how many charges. I can look it up here. Trump, how many does he have? 34 felony counts, but I don't remember if it was all 34 guilty. I don't think it was. I think he got out some of them maybe. I'm actually just kind of curious for myself. I forget. It's so many guilty counts. Oh no, he was found guilty in all 34. Oh god. See, I even try to block this stuff out of my mind. How ludicrous this is. Like, how is this? And this is just from a purely objective point of view. Is like how are we even having this conversation? And that's kind of where I get upset. To where, I mean, this is just insane. I don't know where, where this is even a contest. It's so ridiculous, right? I don't. Can you imagine this? I mean, just can you imagine trying to explain this to your kids in the future, or your grandkids, etc. For people who aren't living through this era, like you had to have to explain that we had a presidential candidate who was convicted of 34 felonies, and people were still voting for this guy. I'm laughing because this is so ridiculous. Can you just think about how do you explain this to your grandkids, like this period in time? Um, you know, I lived through, if you guys remember Howard Dean, he screamed at a rally. He was like, yeah, and that ended his campaign. Like he got overexcited at a rally, and people are like, oh, I don't want my president sounding like a professional, wrestler. And I remember this stuff. You guys remember the Howard Dean, scream that ended his campaign. That was it. It was like a wild scream, and people thought that was unpresidential. Or John Edwards got an expensive haircut or had an affair, right? And that ended his campaign basically. And you have Trump who's like so far out of bounds. It shows you like how we've really sank. I can't even describe it. And the craziest crap is like, and this is the thing that sort of why I like to just do live stream, is like hang out with like actual real people. When you hang out on social media, you don't know if there's just bots, because and guys, if you do YouTube every day, which I do, and I see comments, there are fake comments like everywhere. It's everywhere. You'll know when you see it. Basically what it is, it'll be one comment posted and it'll be like 20 replies to the first comment within like 30 seconds. But these bots can actually be pretty convincing. They got a profile picture, they have a full account, etc., and they just spawn like wildfire. It's awful. And so Darth is saying the only positive to all of this is that all the crazies are out of the shadows. Yeah, it's awful. What else to say here? And I would like to hear from you all from the community. Scott saying this is nothing new. Nothing moves the needle in the U.S. like racism. Bill Clinton won the white Southern vote by calling black people. That's an interesting one. If and I'd have to look that up. Actually, I can look that up. So he's saying that we've seen this before, and I don't know if this. I can just look this up if you're just trolling, or because I field questions. Sounds like a troll one to me, but it is what it is. But I will concede that this, people say things all. Well, this looks like that. I don't see anything. I literally just Googled this and I don't see. Oh, let's see here. So this was in '96. So okay. So that was, and it says that Clinton actually regrets that remark. So fair enough. See, and this is what the world that I want to live in. And I'm telling you the truth, Scott. It's the world I want to live in. I look up everything when people suggest something. I look stuff up and say okay. And to be fair to Clinton here, right? She's apologized or whatever. So this would be the difference between someone who shows some decency and someone who doesn't. because we're all human and we all make mistakes, right? So Scott was referring to this, and I could literally see it right here. I just looked it up, and there's Clinton who's apologized, and that's something that would be a stark contrast to someone like Trump who never apologizes. So it's a good example to bring up, right? See, JPG says, I think the Republicans are going to try to overturn the congressional election result until the election so that they can choose not to certify the election. Yeah, so that's actually a major concern, regardless of what happens on election night, which we'll watch it together. Will the Trump side accept the results? Right, that's a extremely real concern. I with the whole, we'll bring up Elon here, with the whole Elon stuff, he's been on the campaign trail. The first time he did it, we were kind of laughing because he's like jumping up and down like an idiot. And now he's still on the trail. And the thing that's been the most concerning to me is, again, to where his loyal, Tesla stock promoters and I see the stuff they write in social media, etc. Right, the big ones, and now they're all Trumpers all of a sudden, and saying, "Oh my God, look how much of a genius Elon is." And when and like, this is what I did, like what I just saw live with Scott. I Google everything, I check everything. When when Elon fielded a question from someone regarding January 6th, and Elon just starts saying a bunch of stuff that's not true. And it was like, oh my God, is this even real? And the sad thing is that the question was from a person, and you never know with people, right? You don't know if this person was given, and this is a campaign rally. You don't know, is that a question given by the campaign, is et cetera, is this a real person, et cetera? Because the question was, I'm a young person, and I just want to hear your thoughts about how to think about January 6th. It was kind of in that nature, and actually the crowd booed the young person at first, because you're like, well, why did the person bring it up? But then the way that, you can always tell how a question's framed. The way it's framed is like, oh, well, January 6th is a deep state, that kind of stuff. You'll know. And then Musk went on to this long explanation of how Trump is innocent and stuff like that. And it's just like, and it's and not even talking about the Trump's actions on that day. Like any sane person, I'm just talking about sanity, and which I feel like we've lost in USA, sadly, would know that violence is completely awful. And every time I talk about my wife about this, I always talk about, like, in how many countries in the world, right, where one party rushes the Capitol violently and tries to stop the election certification. Like, how do people still stand by that? It is so ridiculous. So and it's even difficult to talk about on YouTube because there's so many crazies out there. So certain topics, because I could do YouTube all the time, you just don't want to bring up because it's just too much hassle. And that's just one of many topics. But but the more I've been thinking about it after seeing Elon's nonsense, is that if you don't come out and say something and call out this nonsense out, it'll persist. So and that's sort of why I do this stuff with you guys and just talk in a reasonable way. I don't want violence. And this is for any election. I've lived through so many elections. One side wins, one side loses. If you lose, you accept the result. You come back next 4 years and get a better candidate, and that's it. And that's democracy. And we all continue to live with each other. And you'll find out. And I lived with many presidents. Like, things can change, but you're still going to go about your life, and you can continue doing what you do, right? The thing was just so ugly about the Trump years, and we may be going through it again, is this sort of, and I feel, everyone has their own pet peeves about what they didn't like in the Trump years, but my big one was just like where truth didn't matter anymore. That stuff was weird, and we're seeing it heavily with the Musk stuff, where just truth doesn't matter, and it's like, okay, great. And the gaslighting is awful because he tries to pretend like, oh, I'm the one with the truth, and mainstream media, there's no truth there. It's only on social media, where, like, on this platform on X is like all bots, and that's where you get the truth. I'm just like, and you don't know how many people fall for this stuff because they're all bots over there. So, like, what is going on? OS 10 says, "How is Trump even allowed to run after inciting a mob and trying to steal the last one? I feel like I'm on crazy pills." OS 10, that's literally what I ask myself every day. Every day. I'm like, how are we even in this? How is this even a thing, right? Like how is this even a contest? It is it's so crazy. And the best way to explain it, and this is sort of why I go over stuff with you guys, is there's a group of people out there that feel like they've are being left behind by the system, right? And so then they think the whole system's like against them, etc. But the crazy stuff about this is like, if the system is against you, why do you think like the billionaire who is a product of like all of the privilege in the system, why would you side with that person? That doesn't make any sense. If you're gonna want to be fighting the system, just from a logical perspective, and I know logic plays no role in this stuff, you would want someone who has a working class background, came from the same roots as you. Maybe you work in a steel mill or coal mine, or you're a longshoreman, or you're a farmer, any number of like labor type jobs, or factory workers, right? You're factory manager, and understands your struggles, and works to have solutions for you. But this idea of like, I'm turning to a billionaire who used to own casinos and had all these failed ventures and bankruptcies, like it's crazy, so what is this, like, what are we even talking about here anymore? The orange says, "Orange man gonna freak out when he loses." We'll see. So I want to go over some of the data also with this stuff, but I just wanted to talk about that. We'll see if this ends up being the turning point in the election. But right now we have several things going on this final basically week. The whole Elon lottery stuff, and now we have the base for essentially the racist rally. People are already voting. This is what we're at here. It says here, where millions of Americans have cast ballots during early voting. So I've already voted myself, and you guys can type in chat if you voted. I'm just curious how many people out there have early voted. And it looks like in the Southeast, actually, quite a lot of people. So these are the percentages here. So you can see, so the pink are, I guess, less early voting. I don't know how to best way to phrase it. And then the dark ones are the more early voting. I'll try to blow the map a little bit bigger so you can see though. But this was updated on October 27th at 5:24 p.m. And let's see what else here. Yeah, and actually, we're going to get into that, Darth. I have some data on this stuff. So Darth is saying, well, Darth, not in the same way that you're phrasing it, but we are talking about there is certainly money involved, which I'll show you guys. It is something, yeah. And I think Nathan says that Nathan voted. Amongst a lot of people regretting their vote after the rally. Psycho says, and this is a sad part, sadly, I'm getting the impression that Trump's racism is making him more popular. That is a reality that you have to deal with. For some people, the way the people that the way the people that they talk about Trump, they'll just say, "Oh, finally someone says the stuff that we're all thinking," right? And it's like, oh, well, that makes me feel better, right? And it's played out in any number of ways. And to basically sum it up for those you don't know, is, so for many people, they just think that another group of people are inferior based on the way they look or whatever religion they have, etc. And that's what they think. So no matter what a person says, no matter how well they speak, no matter what kind of job they hold, or any number of accomplishments in their life, in their mind, if you think another person's inferior because of the way they look, then you just can't accept it, right? So there's a group out there that just can't accept it, and then Trump will come out and say, "Oh, this person is bad, and vote for me, and I'll get rid of the bad people." And it's a really awful rhetoric. And this is part of American history, though, so this isn't like necessarily a new thing. It's just the way that we've how can I say, the way we're experiencing it today. It's just so out in the open. It's gross. But to be fair, when things are out in the open, maybe it's got to get worse before it gets better. That's one way to think about it, right? I also think the younger generations are going to be very, very different than the older generations. I think it's going to be quite different. So this is where this is just the latest that I have. I'll show you a couple different. These are in the swing states. So Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina, Michigan, Arizona, Wisconsin, and Nevada. It's just really close. Okay, I'll show you a couple of these, but it's just really close. They're all within like 1%. Looks like Trump's got a slightly bigger lead in Arizona. The other ones are all basically toss up. This is another of the swing states. I'm just showing you a couple of different polls that came out today that I'm looking at. Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia, Michigan, Arizona. This one, Harris in this poll is like slightly gained a bit, but again, these are all within margin error. So for me, all of these are toss-ups. I wouldn't necessarily count on either state. You just don't know. One thing I will say though, in prior elections, Trump will tend to do better in the actual election than in the polling data. But that's that might be different this time around, as the pollsters may have a better sense of like how to count the Trump votes, etc. Who knows? It's hard to say. We just don't know. I will say though that I think what was kind of how this rally, I guess, was I guess for me just disheartening is the right word, I guess, to say, was just the fervor of the racism and aggressive, racist, and I gotta mention misogynistic stuff too. So I don't think it's only just about racism, but this is stuff that people are saying is awful. My hope is that there'll be enough Americans that just are so sickened by this thing that they just don't want to see it anymore. Yeah, someone mentioned the Joe Rogan thing. So the Rogan stuff is exactly what you think it would be, right? So if you ever heard Trump speak, it's exactly what you think it would be. It's just so there's that, right? One thing, like I said, is that in these times, people do need to stand up and say something. So when the comments came out negative against Puerto Rico, essentially it rallied all of the Puerto Rican stars to back Harris, right? And unless you've actually had friends from these different types of places, you don't realize these are real people. I used to live in New York City, huge Puerto Rican population. I've had Puerto Rican neighbors. I'm trying to think if I've had a Puerto Rican roommate, because I've had a lot of roommates in my life. I mean, really a lot of all different types of people. I've definitely known several Puerto Ricans, but actually, a true story. It's kind of funny. When I was a professor at Fashion Institute Technology, which is in New York City, right in the heart of New York City, I had a couple students get in a heated argument. It was a black student arguing with a Puerto Rican student on who is the founder, like, which group founded rap music, and I say this and just it's funny because like you don't just, I never had that argument with someone before. I'd never seen these arguments, but it can be quite heated arguments, different things that people fight about, whatever. But meaning that that's something that you wouldn't know until you've seen it for yourself. Oh, okay, I didn't realize there was like a dispute. And if you actually go look at history, it turns out both groups were in the foundations of you could argue either way, but I would just say both groups were the foundations of rap music. But I'm just mentioning that. But point being though is that this is what it comes to appreciate, the diversity in the country. Pursuit of Dream says voted 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I voted, I don't know, like a month ago already. It's been a long time. Now, this is what a lot of people have been saying. So Song is saying, I don't think women will sit this one out. Personal autonomy is no joke. Yeah, I definitely think women are going to go heavily to Harris. I think that's a given, but by how much, and how will it make a difference in the swing states? That's the key. And I'm just getting a headline flash across my phone here. Oh, so Musk is just on the campaign trail saying he wants to cut the deficit, or the budget, but that's just by 2 trillion. That's a Musk thing. Let's see what else we got going on here. I want to show you guys the other big story. There's a bunch of stuff coming out. This is the headline: Meet the mega donors pumping over 2.5 billion into the election. So if you saw my last video, we talked about how big money is just a big, it's just a part of politics these days in USA. Um, this is actually interesting though. It's come from the Washington Post. They did a sort of a revealing, I guess you could say, of the top 50 donors into which party. So it is true that Kamala Harris has raised more money than Trump, but the Republican side is getting all of sort of like these really really big the big money in terms of like single big donors. So among these top 50 of the the largest donors, Republicans are getting more 1.6 billion, a Democrat 752, and then you have 752 million it is, and then you have 214 million, which is going to both parties, and that's the crypto people. So the crypto people are trying to buy influence on both sides. This is a big part of our election is money. And it's interesting when you go through these, the top 10 are mostly Republicans. So like I said, I'll repeat it. It's true that Kamala Harris is raising more money, but the billionaire class, right, the ultra wealthy are heavily favored, or giving, that's what I would say, giving to Republicans. So there's a lot of people out there in this kind of class. I think they know Trump's an idiot. He's the useful idiot. I think they know that these people aren't stupid. But they just want their tax cuts, etc. So there's certainly a class of people out there, and there's also this class of people out there, and I think Elon would fit in this group, because someone mentioned that, and you could argue one way or the other. Is Elon full on racist? Who knows? But you ask Elon. But there's ultra wealthy people that just look anyone in the lower classes as they're just my servants, and they're the worker class, right? So they kind of just look down upon the poorer people. And also too, when I share this kind of stuff, I don't mean to say that all rich people are bad. That's not the case. There's some very generous, wealthy individuals that give a lot of money to, the good causes, be it, cure for cancer, that kind of stuff, right? Be it clean water, any number of things. So, don't ever, and this is something that you learn through experience, is when you meet different groups of people. The world is made of all kinds of things. And so this is the difference between someone who's never met a group of people and just assume, and this is sort of what the situation with, you'll see it in the polling data where, like, you'll have someone who's never met someone from south of the border, and yet for whatever reason they hate everyone from Mexico, even though they've never met said people. You'll see that in polling data. So that's why I mentioned the story with, I used to have students from Puerto Rico, and I taught in New York City. I had students from all over the world. But yeah, so these are some of the wealthy donors. The number one biggest donor, I guess, is 197 million. This is Timothy Mellon. It's basically a railroad heir. So railroad money in the Republican Party over there. And then you got shipping magnates, Richard and Elizabeth Ullheim. So again, these are the people who fund the campaigns. If you're ever curious who essentially pushes the money, and who keeps these sort of, I guess, divisions in USA, and you're looking at where the money is coming from. And so it's ironic whenever the Republicans talk about, quote, deep state and all that nonsense they talk about, like, these are the biggest donors. I'm literally showing you who these people are and how much money is coming, and like, you can see which sides they're on. So the thing about this stuff, and there's more, I'm gonna show you more, but this is all public information, so it's not like secret necessarily. It's just that you either decide to look, or you decide to put your head in the sand. Number 3, Marian Anderson, Adelson. So I guess she's the widow of the business person Sheldon Adelson. So I actually don't know. Oh, they're okay. So it looks like Vegas money. It says they're the majority shareholder of Las Vegas Sands. And true story, I've been around this money before. I went to school with the granddaughter of Wynn. If you don't know Wynn, WYNN, that would be the big hotel thing in Vegas. So wealthy people do wealthy things. You got Musk. He's number 4, so he's actually not the biggest donor on the on. And again, this is not just Republicans and Democrats. I'm just showing you all of these. Are just happens to be the top 10 donors, and the top 4 all happen to be on the Republican side. So Musk has given so far 132 million. What the way these charts are made is where the top donor is 197 million, and so the other ones are, because they show it like in percentage of that. So you can see there. So Musk is actually number 4. He's not even the biggest donor. but he certainly is, it has a very influential. Um, so Nico's asking, America still has railroad magnates. What year is it? No, so this would be heirs to the fortune, right? And yes, I went to school with the granddaughter of Steve Wynn. That's correct. But I went to with school with a lot of wealthy people, Rockefellers, and I had a Rockefeller in one of my classes one time. Um, let's see here. Do you see number 3? You have a hunch. What's your hunch? Let's go take a look at this. So this is number 3 here. So this is Marian Adelson. So Sharon, I don't keep track of these wealthy people, so I don't necessarily know who Sheldon Adelson is. I can look it up. Oh yeah, that was the Las Vegas Sand here. That's right. Oh, so he was the former CEO of Las Vegas Sand. That's Sheldon Adelson. And I don't know how many kids they have. Actually, probably says right here. They have 3 kids, married a couple times. And this again, so these kind of people, like, the people who follow Trump and stuff, they just think that all wealthy people are smart and you should follow wealthy people and worship them. It's not really the case. Sometimes you're just born into it. So same with the Musk situation. Essentially, he was born with emerald pockets, right, or emeralds in his pockets. So number 5 is Kenneth Griffin. So again, all the biggest donors are Republican donors. So he's the big hedge fund manager. And then you also have Jeff and Janine Yass. So it says here, Jeff is co-founder of the Pennsylvania-based investment. So this is basically Wall Street kind of money, essentially. Investment company Susquehanna International Group. His wife founded a charter school and is advocate for school choice. Of course they are. Nothing surprises me. So why is that surprising me? If you guys don't understand, basically the people who all preach school choice, they just want to cut taxes to public education. So that's their agenda. Just cut taxes to public education bad, cut taxes, because when you're in the wealthy class, you don't need public services. You don't need public hospitals. You don't need public education. You don't need that stuff, right? Because you have all the money to do whatever you want. And so that's why it's so ridiculous all the time when you talk about this stuff. And I have conversations about these guys, about serious conversations about money. Unfortunately, in the USA, when it comes to money, you're kind of at fend for yourself, take care of yourself. I mean, that's just how it is in USA. So, as sort of why on my channel I talk a lot about budgeting, investing, that kind of stuff, because that's just how it is in USA. You can't depend on anyone to take care of you. You're got to defend for yourself. And on top of that, which is awful in the USA, you have a group of people who vote against their interest, right? They're like, oh, I hate public schools. I hate funding the hospitals. I hate roads. It's like, I hate public transportation. And I want to support guys like Musk that want to privatize everything and want to cut, any kind of regulations. That's like, and it's like, how do you explain it to these people? Like how foolish that is. Case in point, let's say we get rid of the FDA and get rid of any food regulations. Look what's going on with the McDonald's. It's awful, right? You don't want all of our food to be poisoned. It's crazy. I'm kind of going off here, but guys, you got to talk about this stuff because it's real. Vic is also saying here, I can vouch for that. Women have had it. They are not sitting this one out. It will be the biggest voter turnout for women ever. It may be actually. That's something that a lot of people have been saying. I think women is going to be a big turnout. Khan is also saying here, both Elon and Trump were born on third base and thinks they hit a triple. What's worse is Elon was an illegal immigrant at one time. Yes. So let's keep on going over this stuff. And again, this is important. Knowledge is power, right? Knowledge is power. And the stuff I'm showing you guys, it's very different than what you'll see on right-wing channels. None of this stuff is conspiracy theories. This is just numbers. Like, you can see where the money's coming from and who it's coming from. It's not, it's funny too, because if you watch the right-wing channels and they're always talking about who's the person they like to attack? Soros. Yeah, Soros this and Soros that and blah, blah, blah. It's like, why isn't Soros on this list? This is the top 10 list here. So Paul Singer, number 7 on the list. So the top 7 are all Republicans. Another hedge fund manager says a billionaire is a founder and co-CEO of Elliott Management. Then you got number 8, Michael Bloomberg. And didn't Michael Bloomberg run for president? I think he ran the same year Kamala Harris ran, if I'm not mistaken. I think he joined the election late. He just came in so late. I'm not quite sure if he actually thought he was going to win. You never know sometimes with people who run, because everyone runs for all different reasons. But he is the Bloomberg, right? He's all Wall Street money, the financial. Actually, the Bloomberg terminals are big money for them. I don't know how much it is a month. I should know. It's expensive, that stuff. But basically, he's in charge of the sort of the media machine, I guess you could say, that powers Wall Street. And Bloomberg is a good a good source of Wall Street info, for sure. So certainly has quite, I don't know his net worth, but it's all these people are quite wealthy. So these, if one thing I learned when I was at university, and I always mention all the time on the channel, the country's run by Wall Street and it's run by the military. I know it's kind of a more what do I call it, a pessimistic view of the world, but it's just the reality of it. What else we got here? So True Tech is saying, is Halloween all year long, as the right-wing party says trick or treat? Yeah. So also we have rounding out the top 10, you have another Republican, so investor and philanthropist, so Stefan and Christine Schwartzman. Looks like they are, Steven Schwartzman is the CEO of the private equity firm Blackstone. So a lot of this money is like your big Wall Street money. And then you have number 10, which is actually quite interesting, the Facebook co-founder Dustin Moskovitz. So actually, true story, Moskovitz, and actually let me pull that up. He was the first really big tech person recently to come out and basically call Musk a fraud. And that's actually a pretty big deal because these kind of person, again, this is one of the co-founders of Facebook, these kind of people, they're plugged in to that community, right? So they're gonna hear all the gossip, right? They're gonna hear all the scuttlebutt going around. Let me pull this up here. When he called Musk a fraud, I'll just bring it up. Musk fraud. So he's also a big donor. So those are the top 10 donors. Yeah, hold on. Let me just pull up an article I can show you guys. And we started making videos about this before, and actually I'll just screenshot this and share it with you. Basically calling Tesla Enron level fraud. I think what's disturbing about this stuff, and actually let me just put this up here. Let's put it right here. Get a new page. So you guys can see I do these things live, put these things together. Oops, where is it? Speaking of which, I gotta do a bit faster here. There we go. So this was back in April, earlier this year. Headline, Facebook co-founder says Tesla's committed consumer fraud on a massive scale, will end in jail. This is Enron now, folks, and I would agree with that. But wait, there's more. So again, we're going through the list of where the money's coming from. This is a list of the top 50 donors. So I just showed you the top 10, and you can kind of see where the money's coming from, where it's going to. This is the top 50 donors, and you can see there's a lot of red in there. And you compare that to the other list here. So 1.6 billion, when you look at the top 50 donors, the campaigns, 1.6 billion goes to Republican, 752 million goes to Democrat, and then 214 million goes to both parties. So that would be the crypto money. So the Republicans definitely get the a bulk of the billionaire class money here. You can also take a look at the rankings from 21 to 40. We're not going to go through every single one of these. There's too many to go through. But I can tell you kind of generally. So you have crypto money in here. Yeah, the Koch family is in there. That's KOCH. They got quite a bit of money. You also got the oil and gas money's in this. Hotel money, right? Which you talked about before with the Vegas money, which would be the one we talked about earlier, the Adelson, that was the Las Vegas Sands. I got insurance money. Education union is actually on the Democrat side, so that's, I guess, teacher money. And then you can't. I mean, this would be, comparing the NEA to a billionaire is not quite exactly the same. So this list combines individuals and combines organizations. So it's not exactly a 1-to-1, right? And see what else you got in here. A trade union, that's another Democrat one, which is kind of interesting. So the trade union is different than than again individual. So it's a couple of unions there. But it's funny because the Republican side always tries to attack the unions, which is basically workers. This is an interesting one. Linda McMahon Former CEO of World Wrestling Entertainment. I guess it's interesting that she's on the list, but not, isn't it Vince, the husband, Vince McMahon? Is that correct? I think it's Vince. Um, but she's on the list too. So professional wrestling money is part of the big donor class. Master's saying here, these Trump donors have no regard for Trump's values. They want his policy. They want his top-down policy. Yeah. So a lot of these people, I think they know Trump's no good, but they're just concerned about their wallets. JP thinks, I think the pollsters have adjusted the polls a little bit, overly favoring Trump, but I don't know if I would necessarily say that. I don't have any evidence of that. Someone's asking, is Robert Mercer in there? I have the list up here. Is there a Robert Mercer in here? I'm looking. Let's see. Again, this is the top 50 biggest donors. A lot of this is Wall Street money. Like I said, Wall Street money, railroad money. So there is Soros money in there. I can see right here. That's number 12. So that's like a fund. It says a Soros linked nonprofit. See it there. So, and again, the one thing I always talk about on this channel, like we talk about markets or anything, is understand how the world really works. That's what I'm showing you. It's right here. This is how it works. It takes money to run campaigns. The way our sort of candidates are selected, right? So in this particular election cycle, J.D. Vance was selected by Peter Thiel and all their buddies. That was some Silicon Valley money. For those even following that. Peter Thiel is an interesting guy. He has connections to Musk way back in the PayPal days. They even got in a car accident together, according to them. They crashed Musk's McLaren and walked out unscathed. The whole story is kind of a strange one. Who knows what to make of anything that Musk, or Thiel say, but they did say they were in a car crash together. True story. That's according to both of them. But like I said, what actually happened, I don't know. No idea. This is kind of interesting. This is on the Republican side. Jan Koum, co-founder and former CEO of WhatsApp. That's interesting. So that's essentially, Facebook related money, because I think Facebook bought WhatsApp. Here's an interesting one. The daughter of the Simon Property Group. So that's Deborah Simmons. So that's on the Democrat side. But just to give you an idea of the kind of money, like where the money comes from. So Simon Property Group, that's the outlet malls, right? Isn't that right? I guess we are going through this risk, because it is kind of interesting. You've never seen this stuff before. Where this money comes from. Also, we have tobacco money. That's on the Republican side. RAI Services, tobacco manufacturer. So I don't even know this company, but I do know what tobacco money is. The chicken money, for real. Ronald Cameron, CEO of the Mountaire Farms, a large poultry farm. That goes to the Republican side, the chicken people. So actually, this is no joke though. Chicken money is like real money, that's no joke. We all eat chicken, and there's a lot of money involved with that stuff. And the big manufacturers actually push out the small farmers, unfortunately. I think the other ones, another food company. So that would be J. Christopher and M. Jude Reyes. It says chairman of the food company. Which food company? That's another food. Interesting. So you can see you got food stuff here. Another interesting one is number 45. The Real Estate Trade Association, that'd be the real estate people. They give money to both sides. So, right, meat prices. Yeah. So that would make sense that the food people are getting involved here. Because Kamala Harris was talking about, trying to bring food prices down. So I can see that. So, guys, this is sort of, again, you want to think about how does this stuff really work? Where's the money come from? And certainly, it all depends. And what I mean by all depends, it depends where your priorities are. So, not every billionaire is going to donate just to promote their cutting taxes, that kind of stuff. So, actually I can find it, but someone like a Bill Gates or a Warren Buffett, they've expressed in the past that they're fine paying their fair share of taxes, which I don't think is a crazy thing to say. I mean, in my opinion, for these kind of people, they've essentially on the winning side of this game in the USA. If you want to talk about economics being a game, they're clearly on the winning side, and be thankful for the position that you have, and doesn't mean necessarily you have to hold everyone else down, but everyone has their own point of view on this stuff. So here, I'm just typing in Warren Buffett, and you can find any number of. He made several comments on this stuff. Let's see here. Like here's an example. Let's see. Yeah, like in the past he's given. I'll just show you guys this if you want to find these old things. But he's commented on this stuff before. So it's and this is something that want to make super clear. The Republicans, they like to attack this kind of stuff and say, oh, you just hate people that make money and stuff like that. No, it's not true. It's just simply not true. It's just you want a fair system, right? That's it. And so like even Warren Buffett like literally gives an interview in 2012, right? And he's clearly part of the billionaire class. I mean, it's not a secret, but he'll sit down and talk about it, and talk about fairness, right? For him and his and his secretary would obviously make much less, and like the issue is like how we treat income. So if you've never heard this kind of stuff before, the Musk situation. So how it works with Musk, if you don't know, he doesn't take any income from Tesla. Okay, so from a regular person's point of view, they're like, oh, just cut my taxes and just I'll have a flat tax because that's really fair. And you'll have, people in the Musk billionaire class to say, oh yes, flat taxes is fair for everyone. But the thing is though, when you're a certain level, it's really easy for you to manipulate your income, right? So you can essentially take no income, so then pay no tax. Yeah, and Kaka says in the preset, it says, funny how they talk about deep state. Yeah. It is funny. Like I'm showing you where the money comes from and where it's going, and right, and that's the part that always talks about deep state. Yeah, and it's the same thing with Musk is always talking about the conspiracy theory deep state stuff, and like they're the ones spreading it. That's why it's so ridiculous. Like it's literally on his platform spreading like wildfire. It was recently where Musk shared an article, and he was fact checked by that stuff. Meaning that he's sharing a fake article and they got fact checked. The other thing I want to bring up too, which is definitely worth mentioning, is Trump. They is real. They have like this crypto scam that they launched recently. They have multiple crypto scams in the Trump side, but this is like a way to circumvent election finance laws, and also too a way. And you don't know where the money's from. The money can come from any number of sources, be it foreign or domestic. We don't know. It's like crypto money, or you have Trump's old Trump media stock that's going up, like that kind of money. That's like normally for any normal campaign, this would be a massive scandal. That like, hey, our candidate has launched a crypto scam. That would be like a massive scandal. But this is how low our bar is that a candidate can have a crypto thing, and like we it just keeps on going like normal. It's really awful. So I always bring this up. It's because it's like I said, it's a small issue because we're so normalized it these days. Just imagine it. Just how many other political candidates out there launch their own crypto coin to raise money, or no, they don't. And even the headline too is Trump family gets 75% of crypto coin revenue, has no liability. New document reveals, right? Yeah, and you can get the Trump watches, that kind of stuff, which people mention. Conrad says, can Elon be supporting Trump because Trump is going to increase tariffs to fight China and Elon can't compete with China? Well, that's just one of the reasons why Elon would want to be supporting Trump, right? That's just one. There's several reasons. So yes, Trump is all about the tariff stuff, right? So basically block any kind of foreign company that could come in and offer a cheaper or better product, and then Musk then can have higher chance of more market share. I'll pose this question to y'all for those of you that haven't thought about this stuff that much. I was a kid in the 80s, and when the Japanese cars first came, the Hondas and the Toyotas, there was a lot of people that were really angry about those cars, right? Essentially they were better cars than the Fords and the Chevys. And as as a consumer, the question I pose to you is like, which do you prefer? Do you want the cheaper, better car, which the Honda or the Toyota, or do you want only one choice and you have to buy the domestic car that may not be as good? And I know for people who are Ford and Chevy fans, you may be really upset by these words, but the consumers speak for themselves. I think Toyota, is it the Camry? I think that's the number one selling car. Like it's like always really popular. The RAV4, it's another Toyota. That cars are really really popular. I mean, consumers choose. They people vote with their pocketbooks, right? And so it's just what it is. Like even today's world, you go to the store and buy a TV. I think you guys all know this. The Samsungs and the LG TVs are really really good. There used to be, when I was a kid, there used to be American TV brands, like it was Zenith, or I think Zenith might not even be American. I think it was. Maybe it wasn't. There used to be American brands. I promise you there was. Maybe I don't know if it was Zenith was American or not. Let me see here. TV brand. I can't remember it because they don't even exist anymore. Oh no, I guess wait. Okay, no, Zenith was bought by the Koreans. Actually, it says here. So at one point Zenith was American, but it said it was. I think it was bought by Koreans. It is owned by South Korean company LG. So LG bought Zenith. So I was correct. And it was founded in Chicago. But the point is that as a consumer, if you really do believe in capitalism and a free market, you would want access to all of the products available, not just some products, right? I'm not saying anything crazy. So yeah, from Musk's point of view, if you can't compete, just get them blocked, right? Get your buddy Trump to put a bunch of tariffs on him. So that's one reason that he would be going for Trump. The other reason, which is probably the bigger one, well, there's a couple other reasons. You want to get those government contracts, right? So get all those NASA contracts coming your way, that kind of stuff. I mean, you're talking about, billions of dollars. Philips might be American too. And I think they might have made TV. I think you might be right on that. And it's funny because these days young kids, they don't really care so much anymore about, which car brand, because, and this is the one thing too. And going back to like, say, my childhood, even when I was a kid, I used to read. I just wanted to read. I read everything and learn everything. So the idea that anything was 100% American brand or 100%, say, Japanese brand, for example, isn't necessarily that simple to talk about, because what if, for example, and there was a famous movie at that time in the 80s that addressed this point, and I'll bring up the movie for those old enough to, because I don't know how old people are, watching this right now. There's a movie called Gung Ho, because it was addressing the American racism. So racism, it's just part of the American world. It's been part of American history. For those you don't know, we had slavery, and Native Americans, were the original people, and the indigenous people were on the land, the First Nation people, right? So, in just history, and I'm using the example of Gung Ho here. At the time, there was a lot of anti-Japanese sentiment in the USA, anti-Asian sentiment, and so this movie came out. It's a Ron Howard movie, so. Again, for those of you old enough, you would know exactly which movie this is. Michael Keaton stars in the movie, and it's about a Japanese plant that comes into, I think it's probably like an Ohio town or something like that, and builds a factory. And it's just kind of, it's a comedy, but it was certainly meaningful for the time that it was made, and it still plays out today. I always mention this documentary on Netflix if you haven't seen it. And these kind of things are important to understand the Trump voters, because essentially they're let me just pull this one up. They're the type of voters, and this would be on the look, because not people vote for Trump for different reasons, but a lot of his campaign appeals to this working class vote that wants to blame dark people or whoever for taking their jobs. Actually, I'm trying to pull this up here. Let me see if I can get it. I need to get a picture of the other one, but it's called American Factory on Netflix. And let me see if I can just pull this up. But basically, it's a documentary, and it's about a Chinese company. And I think they go in Ohio, and they end up buying the company. And then the documentary is about sort of, yeah, there it is right there, about the sort of cultural clashes and also too cultural friendships. Fantastic movie. One of the most honest discussions about this topic that you'll see. And this is the one I always point to if you ever want to try to understand the Trump stuff. And I know the Trump stuff is really complicated, but understand the economic, premises on it, and takes a realistic look. So essentially, what you have is this population of people that are older, right? So let's say you're 50 or 60, and because of the current economic situation that it is, it's just things are really expensive and it's really tough out there. I completely understand that. And so you're looking for a savior to come save you, and it's just frankly not that simple. Unfortunately, it's just not. Um, and this addresses that point, because when you compare the workers in this situation in China, a younger workforce, a cheaper workforce, right? And then from the company's point of view is trying to please Wall Street. Where are you gonna where a job's gonna be? I mean, it's not hard to figure out. But what the show doesn't address enough, though, is that many of these jobs have been lost to automation, right? So don't just think, and that's so the Trump people just all want you to think that all the jobs is just due to the dark people taking your jobs, right? That's the narrative that they push, but a lot of it's just automation. The car factory just doesn't need that many people in the way that it used to. The steel factory doesn't either. It's a different world. Many of the workers are both black and white in this, or Latino. I don't think there's a Latino in this thing, but those are factory workers. And this particular Asian person is actually not American. This would be a Chinese national. And it's interesting to see when they come and work with the Americans, this people are all the same. Like that's the saddest thing about the racism stuff with the Trump people, is like you're demonizing other human beings. And if you actually reach out and have a meal, right, go have dinner with people that might look different than you, you'll find out, wow, we both like beer. we both like sports, or we both want our kids to have a better education. We're not that different. And it's just a sad world that we have, to where you have these and kind of people that just push out this racist rhetoric and divide people. It's not a good thing. It's frankly not a good thing. And it's important to go over this stuff. Let's see some comments here. Robert says, "Me too. I appreciate you talking about it with us. It helps us feel less insane. I know this whole stuff is nuts." Scott asked, "Do you speak Korean?" Yes, I speak Chinese, Japanese, and Korean. I speak 4 languages. That's why I always mention language and passport. Educate yourself, learn to, other people. I speak a bit of French, not very well though. But if I studied, I could. Can you talk about why Harris will be a good president? Yeah, sure. I mentioned that. So, and I'll say this really clearly. When Harris first ran the first time around, I was not a big fan of hers, to be really frank. There was just a lot of other candidates out there. My personal opinion, I thought, and I met a lot of the candidates. I met Elizabeth Warren a couple of times. I just thought Elizabeth Warren was the one to go with in that election cycle. Biden was my last choice, but it always works out that way. The one that I don't, my very last choice is always the one that wins. It happens every election cycle. So the main reason is that usually the I don't know. Just I don't represent the average voter in the USA. So the average voter in the USA, could be older, could be live in a different part of the country, different educational background, just different. And so I'm a different voter than the other one. So for me, Elizabeth Warren, she used to go on the Daily Show all the time, and she was a professor at Harvard. She's not stupid, right? So. But for some people, they don't understand what she says, and it's the same with Kamala Harris. When I see the criticism of Kamala Harris on Elon Musk's platform, like literally, like the stuff that they say is, oh, she just speaks in word salad, and it's like I listen to it, I read what she says, and she said in the past, and it makes sense to me. I understand it. So basically, the people who say that stuff, they just are frankly insulting themselves that they can't understand what she's saying. It's laughable. But going back to the Kamala Harris one, the big one that was really the turning point for me regarding Kamala was just turning the negatives into positives. And I just challenge any one of you, just to think about it. I'm sure you know this. If you're watching the stream, you already know this stuff. If you watch a Trump rally, it's all about the dark people are going to hurt you. That's essentially the theme of their rallies. If you watch the Harris things, they're just saying, "Hey, we're not going back. We're going to turn the page, go forward." That's what it is. That's just what it is. So she tries to be, talk more bipartisan. She sounds like a human being to me. I think anyone can hear it, but I don't know. It's hard to say. I think some people just hear what they want, and I go back to that. I go back to that. First point early on. For some people, if they see someone that looks a certain way, right? Oh, that person doesn't look the right way. Then suddenly they just close their ears and they don't listen to anything. They can't get out of their mind that that person looks different than they want. They can't. I'll give you a very simple example. I'm Asian, right? I'm Vietnamese. If I tell people, which I did, I served in the United States Navy. In their mind, they're just like, how could an Asian person be in Navy? And they'll ask me, oh, you mean the Chinese Navy? And I'm like, no, the United States Navy. Is there anything about my language that is not clear? Like, I'm clearly an American from my language, and you'll see, racist stuff on YouTube. I see comments all the time, that kind of thing. So there's any number any number of reasons why someone doesn't do that. Now, to yeah, I know. Richard's whoops, oops, hold on. Richard's making a joke here, and sadly it's part of the truth there. Kamala Harris uses a lot of different words, some even big words. Yeah, I mean, it depends who your audience is. So, Trump, he uses the same lexicon. It's a really limited lexicon. I can actually find the thing here, and that appeals to a certain kind of audience, and it's sad. I mean, and you have to feel sorry for these people, because you have to understand there's certain people that don't have the same education. It just is what it is. Trump vocabulary, and you'll see this stuff. You're dealing with an audience that can't. They're frankly illiterate, and so it's like, how do you communicate to people who are illiterate? And I'm being a little bit mean here, but I don't mean to be like mean in the sense of like that we should hate these people. Just we should educate these people. That's what education is, right? That's sort of why I show you guys as much information as I can all the time. But I completely understand when I show people too much information, they don't understand it, and they get scared. I've seen it before because I grew up in these kind of communities, so I know firsthand. That's how I know this stuff. See here, Trump speaks at a fourth grade level, lowest of the last 15 presidents. So this was back when Trump first ran. So that appeals to a certain kind of person, right? It is what it is. And so if you come in and you speak, a different way, they can't understand it. They just need someone to say, dark person bad, freedom good. Oh yeah, freedom good. and that's what they appeal to, these kind of things. So yeah, JG, it appeals to middle schoolers, trailer park boys. It's really, that's frustrating. What can you do? So that's the thing though, guys, is that we have to be careful in our rhetoric too on how to reach out to these kind of voters, right? So that's why I mentioned before the American Factory stuff, to be clear that these are real people out there, and you do want to show some empathy and kindness to them, and that you understand their plight, which I completely understand, right? I know these communities, and that's why I showed you these kind of pictures here. I can show you other pictures. See if I can get the other one to work. So there's Rob's on the left. I don't remember the Chinese person's name on the right, but these are the kind of things you need to see for those, and also shows that some people actually they're not bad people, right? Just because they vote for Trump doesn't necessarily make them bad people. They're just being led astray, and it's easy for us to see from the outside, but you have to think about it. There's also people that vote for Trump. So say with the war stuff, they say, oh, if there's a war, only men can fight wars, and we need powerful men to fight wars. There's some people who think that way, right? There's some people who think that way. I'm just showing you this picture to show again, we're more same than we are different. Yeah. So this this kind of stuff, say, oh, some people say, if there are crazies in the world, we need another crazy to fight the crazies, that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what we have to deal with here. This is yeah. So Brian says, why do you have sympathy? They actively choose ignorance. Well, there's certainly a group of people that you're never going to reach, Brian. I'm just be honest with you. That part's true, but this is what leadership is all about, though, Brian. And I'm being full sincere. This is what leadership is about. is if there are negative, sentiment out there, negative tendency, you lead them in the right direction, right?